Welcome back to the Ragnarok tutorial series. In this video, we will go through some of the commonly used settings you'll want to know when configuring your perfect server. Follow along closely as we will cover each major file in order as they appear on my screen. Right now, we will focus on just the config files. Inside this folder are several files you'll want to edit for the perfect custom server feel. We'll load the character Athena file. If you followed along in this video series, you'll have sensitive information populated in here already. First, we'll take a look at the server name function and give it a name. This can be anything you want. The whisper name for the server can also be changed. This is presented when a player receives a message from the server. It'll appear as a username here instead of the default server. Scrolling down a bit, we'll find character new function, which will allow us to enable or disable players from being created. We also have a config that can be quite impacting to the server if set incorrectly. This is the auto save time function, which will save guild information every 60 seconds. This is a good default standard, but it can be increased if it's causing issues. Lower in the list we have starting zenny, which can be set to any amount to give players a starting amount of money when they create a character. Right below that is the fame listings. This will allow you to set the fame ladder to enable more players to participate. This is a good consideration for high peak servers. If you don't want fame at all, you can disable it by setting it to 0. The guild EXP rate below will allow you to increase how much experience guilds make. Default is 100%, but you can change this to whatever you want. Right under that is the unknown character name. The default here is set to unknown. This is used if a character name is unknown to the server, if they're offline, or don't exist. A couple lines below that, we have the character name minimum length. This is set to 4 by default, but you can set it to 3 for more variety of names. We'll also go down a bit further and add a couple symbols for the character names. This is where you'll add anything you want the players to be allowed to use in their names. The character deletion minimum level sets the maximum level at which a character can be deleted. For example, if you set this to 50, characters at level 50 or higher cannot be deleted. If set to 0, characters of any level can be deleted. Another good idea is to change the character delete options. For more security and verification, it's good to have players pick as many options for character deletion as possible, and when only one is chosen, make it something completely unique where possible. For this, I changed the character deletion from birthday to email address since that's a unique email address. If you want the most security, set it to email and birthday. Next, we've got the pin code system. I am not a huge fan of the UI interactions of this, so I always let my players decide if they want a pin code or not. I turn this to no, and the players are allowed to set up a pin code on their own. Make sure the option pincode_force is enabled. Below that are other options for the pin code. This is for added security to prevent easy to guess pins. Allow repeated set to no will prevent numbers from being repeated more than once, while allow sequential no will prevent numbers in sequence, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4. In the add-on system, we have options to allow characters to be moved from slot to slot. This is a fun feature and is not mandatory to have on. If you do have it on, I recommend making the moves unlimited set to no. These two, rename party and rename guild, are quite self-explanatory. It will allow a user to rename their party or guild once they've created it. To avoid any mishappenings, it's good to keep this disabled and have administrators manage the renaming of guilds through a ticket system. The default map can be set to any map inside the map list. By default, we have the classic Prontera. We can change this to any new map and set the locations for spawn. And at the bottom of this list is the Rodex. It has some common issues that are best dealt with right away. First, we'll decide if we want to have mail in the first place. If we do, we will want to limit some things from happening and items from being returned, avoiding any possible duplication methods. We'll set the mail return to 0 to never return them, the mail delete days to 0 to never delete them, and the retrieve all mail from unread mails set to no to prevent them from being double claimed. And finally, the return empty mail option to no to prevent sending mail back once opened. That's it for this file. This will be the largest of the ones we'll deal with in this video. The next file to explore is the Inter Athena. Knowledge in here needs to be changed, so we'll be quick. Party shares near the top here. We'll set that to anything we want. Keep in mind, back in my day, level 99 was the highest attainable level. That means the highest level being 175 at another point in time, the average share level should have been roughly 26. That is, if you were to increase the level share cap each time the level cap increased. I'll set this to 30 just to cover up to level 200. Starting status points can be changed, but we'll leave it at default unless we want to rewrite the status point system. Allowing emblems to change during War of Imperium is a personal server choice. I think it's always best to leave the emblems the same the entire fight. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone changing their flags mid-battle in a war, but I could be wrong. And we can also set the transparency of the images above their heads. 25 means it'll only be 25% visible. That looks like it for this section. We'll move on to the next file, Login Athena. In this file, we can control various things related to the login server. For instance, we have here the new account function, which we can turn on and off to disallow creating new accounts without the use of FluxCP. If this is set to yes, a user can create an account using the username followed by an _F or _M for their gender. This will register an account in the database for them to use with that gender. We'll also be able to change the minimum length of an account name. I usually set mine to 5, but the choice is completely up to you. The same works for the password length. You'll also be given an option to disallow character creation again within a certain time period. This is all done in seconds. If you set this to 9,000, it'll be 150 minutes. The VIP group will let you decide what GM ID to give the VIP users. This is primarily used if you are changing around with how permissions work or if you have custom VIP systems. We'll leave this set to 5 for the current setup. Characters per account can remain at 0 since we've coded it in the source. If we enabled MD5 passwords in the SQL, we'll need to enable it here too. This tutorial we did not enable this. Below that, we've got the user count colors to change based on how many users are online in the server. It's good to estimate this based on the system's hardware. A standard would be roughly 250 high, 150 medium, 75 low. Set this up on how your average population holds as well if you want. That just about covers it for this file. Moving on. Here we have the map Athena config. This is where the map server settings are held. It's a quick one too, so don't worry. About halfway down the list are the options to enable admins to have guild and party spy. In short, it's an invasive method to view their chat logs. Next, we've got the use grf, which we'll typically set to no since we want to control what maps players have access to in the map cache.dat. If enabled, this will read the player's grf file for that map data. This can lead to a few small but manageable issues. To avoid any confusion during the series, we'll keep this set to no. Now for this next function, you need to be cautious when changing. It'll control how often characters are saved to the server. This can cause short spikes of lag at a rapid pace. It's good to understand your system limits when setting this. At the bottom, we have a few text files we can replace. This is not necessary, but it helps those wanting to add a little extra personal touch to their server. And that's it, short and sweet. The next file is maps Athena. This is the array of maps the server reads to give access to the players. If the map is not inside this list, it doesn't exist for the server. We'll go through how to add custom maps in another video. For now, we'll get an understanding of the structures of this file here. At the bottom, we can make a custom section for any maps we want to add. I'll go ahead and add 3 example maps to get started. Note how these always start with the map and end with the map's name. Follow the syntax exactly as is, or it will throw errors in the terminal. And lastly, in the list of files we have the smallest, script Athena. This is where we will just change one thing. That'll be the input max value to set it to be the maximum value. This will just simply set the arguments for the other scripts to be able to go this high. Save and we're done. Now that we've got a somewhat of an understanding of these config files, we're ready to take our next step into the server. Check out the next video where we'll dive deeper into the settings and make that perfect server just for you.